Okay, good morning, everybody. We are on chapter 5, and we are talking about databases. So all this data that we're creating constantly, remember, more data created in the last 2 years than ever before in humanity needs to go somewhere. And we talked about the dominant form of databases in the world are relational databases. And a couple things just to review. Databases are made up of what? What are databases made up of? The databases, there's 3 real components to databases. 2-dimensional things that we've been working with that I have on the board. What are those? Tables, right? Tables of information. So tables are one component. What else? Part of databases. Tables are good, but really doesn't really make sense unless we can bring it together. And how do we bring them together? How do we tie them together? Via, Alex, keys? Via keys, and those are called relationships that we're building, right? We're building relationships through tying together these keys. You're right. Primary keys, foreign keys point to primary keys. And then the last thing that goes around it, the third thing is metadata, data about data. Okay, those are the 3 components. So we can build these elaborate structures, right? It's predefined. We can store a lot of different things. And remember, Friday, we said, what if I were trying to compete with Ticketmaster and I want to build a database to keep track of that? And I think you guys ended up with 5 tables. You said we have venues, entertainers that are at events. We have customers that buy tickets to events. So I put up 3 of the tables, but I didn't put up the customers and tickets. And it made sense, right? Things came together, they tied together. We only had to store address one place, and probably Ticketmaster database that they use. They probably use multiple databases, but I'm sure they don't just have 5 tables. They probably have 55, maybe 500 tables, okay? Because you can get pretty granular with these things. But for our purposes, let's do this. So today, what I'd like to do, and I asked you guys to bring your laptops, so please get out your laptops, is one form or one database management system that uses the relational database model is Microsoft Access. Okay, Microsoft Access is obviously for Microsoft. It comes with the Office Suite. And I think you guys have on your laptop, at least JJ does, and everyone does. It is what we call a desktop or a small business database management system because it's not designed to run an enterprise. It's not designed to run, St. Francis University. It's not. I think there's a big. Throw this out. Already moved. But it's not designed to run a business or an enterprise. It's designed to run like a small business or a personal database. So what I'd like you guys to do is we're going to try to design these 3 tables today, okay, in Access, like actually predefine all this stuff. We don't put the data in first. We got to predefine it. So what I'd like you to do, and you guys are going to look a little different than me, but I want you to find your Access. So, if you have the latest version of Windows, you're going to have to, swipe right, go to search, and I'd like you to search for Access. Just type Access, and you should come up with Access 2013. Yes? So I open up Access 2013, and yours may look a little different than mine. Let me see what yours looks like. It looks a lot like mine. So what we want to do is there are actually database templates we could use. Okay, that are already built for us. But we want to create a new-to-the-world database design. So we want to go to a blank desktop database. So blank desktop database means a database that's stored on my desktop, and it's going to ask me a couple things. Okay, it's going to ask me what the name of this is, and I'm going to call it. I don't know. This is called. Let's call it Miko tickets. You guys call it whatever you like. Tickets. And I'm going to store it. You click on the folder, and I'm going to store it on the desktop here. Okay, so this is where it's going to live. So here's the name. Notice the extension is ACCDB, Access Database. Somewhere where you can find it later. And click Create. Okay, so congratulations, you just created your first database for many of you. Okay, so now what we want to build first are the tables. Okay, so by default, it knows, hey, that's what you want to do. If you're designing a database, you want to build the tables first. So there's a couple things. We are in what's called, I think it's called Table View, and we want to put it into Design View. Okay, so up in the upper right-hand corner, you see that little, architectural design thing that says View. You guys see this? Click on the drop-down and go from Datasheet View to Design View. And when we do that, it says, all right, what do you want to name your table? Let's start with venues. Okay, let's call the first table venues. So I'm going to change it from table 1, which is an awful name for a table, to venues. And I'm going to click OK. All good? All right. So the first field that we want to put in here is usually a primary key. Okay, so it says ID, but usually in a table, we start everything, all the fields, with the same, at least prefix, maybe the same word, so we know where it comes from. So instead of calling this just ID, I'm going to call it venue ID. Okay, and notice I started venue with a capital V, and then ID is both capital. You can't use spaces in field names, so typically the way we do it is by something a lot of times in programming called intercapping, meaning you know it's a new word because it's a capital letter. Yeah, there you go. It's called intercapping. Okay. Now the data type is auto number. What auto number means is it'll automatically give it the next available number. So it'll say, I'll keep this unique for you, right? So if we put in the first record, it's going to give it a 1. The second record is going to get a 2. The third record is going to get a 3. Because we don't really care about that number. We just care that it's a unique number, right? So auto number is fine. If I put over here in this description, if I say, this is the primary key for the venue table, what do we call that description field? Because it's data or information about data. What do we call that? It's metadata, right? Data about data. Very good. Okay, so that is the first field in our table. You guys gave me some other things, so let's put in, and we can come up with others. But let's do venue capacity. Okay. Now by default it says short text. Short text is like characters up to 255 characters. But what do you think I want to make capacity? I want to make it a number. And it says long integer. That's pretty good. Okay, that's good. Because we can't have 37.86. It's usually an integer, like we have 38 to fit in this classroom. Okay, and we'll just put in here, and we're not going to do the meta. This is the capacity of the venue, which kind of makes sense. I don't know if we need that, but okay. Let's do venue location. And we could do what we probably should do, to tell you the truth, is let's do venue city, okay? Because usually you want to take those fields and break them into their components, like city, state, zip code. Okay, so let's do venue city, and we'll do short text, And then down here, we haven't played around with field properties yet, but we probably don't need 255 characters for city, right? So let's say the longest a city name can be is, what do you think? You guys give me, what do you think would make sense? 15? Let's go 40. Let's do venue state. We're going to do short text. Let's say we want the abbreviation for the state, though. So the field size shouldn't be 255. It should be 2. And we should probably definitely put in here, this is the 2-character abbreviation for our state. Probably the most important field that I should have put first after venue ID would be, the name of the venue. So venue name. Let's make that 50 characters. I think one of the things you guys suggested was to say if the venue was indoor or outdoor, right? So we don't really need to store indoor or outdoor. We can just say I for indoor or O for outdoor. So let's do venue, and I'm going to call it indoor, outdoor. And we'll say that's 1 character. And here's metadata. We're going to say I is equal to indoor. And this is just a description. It doesn't do anything. And O is equal to outdoor. It doesn't control anything. Now, what I do want to do, though, is when I give it something like this, when I have a system and I give it something that only has 2 choices, okay, and it's either I or O, what kind of interface do I want to give my user? Typically, when you only have 2 choices, even the state, we only have 50 choices. What is it? How does it present that information to you? As a blank text box, or how does it do that? Yeah, a drop down. Very good. So let's make this a drop down. Okay, you guys call it a drop down, but if we go to lookup, so we're still on venue indoor outdoor. If we go to lookup, the display control standard is a text box, just a box that you shove text in. But what you guys call a drop down is actually called a combo box. So let's change it to a combo box. So from text box to combo box. Okay. Now, when we change it to combo box, it says, all right, where do you want me to get the values that could possibly be placed in here? And the one thing is through another table. Like I could have a table of the possible values. Like, for example, for the states, okay, we have the state, the 2-character. What I'd probably do is say that's a combo box as well, and then I'd have a table of all the states, and I would reference that. But in this case, I just have 2 things, I and O. So I'm going to say instead of table query, please get the list from a value list. Okay, so I'm going to click on value list, and then in row source, I'm going to put I, comma, O. So that's going to be my value list. I, comma, O. Anything else we want to store here? How about yeah, let's do venue, because I want a currency field. Let's do venue rental amount. And what do you think I want for data type for this? Very good, currency. Anything else you guys want to add to venues at this point? Obviously, we could add 50, 1,000 more fields. Anything pertaining to the venue itself would go in this table. Does that make sense? Okay, so I'm done with that table for now. Let's go up to create again, and let's create another table. So I'm going to click on table, and it gives me table 1, another awful name for a table. So click on drop down with a view and say design view again, and go from venue, let's do entertainers. Okay, let's do a table of entertainers. Malik, that's too big of a yawn. It's going to start everyone yawning now. Yesterday. Oh, man. Yeah, I had 17,000 steps yesterday. That's my personal record since I've been starting to wear my Fitbit. But I'm ready to go, man. So entertainers. We need a primary key. Oh, by the way, I didn't show you guys this earlier, but this key, what do you think that key means? That it's primary key. Very good. So I'm going to say entertainer ID. And that's just auto number. That'll be fine. And let's see, what do we have under entertainer? So entertainer name. I don't know, make that 50 characters. I don't know, what else do we want to store about entertainers? Genre kind of stinks. What else do we want to store about entertainers? Help me, what else do we create for entertainers? Okay, so entertainer fee, right? That would be currency. What do they call those stipulations they put in contracts? What are those called? Entertainers. They have stipulations in their contract. They're called, I think they're called riders. You guys ever hear of riders? Riders are like when entertainers like contract for an event. They say, this is what you have to have for me. You know what I mean? Like you have to have like, actually, you know those speakers we get, those high-end speakers? The most expensive one we had was Tom Peters. You guys hear of Tom Peters? He wrote In Search of Excellence. It's like a classic management book. He's probably like 70 years old right now. You guys never heard of Tom Peters? Well, anyways, he cost us, and it's kind of a shame to say this, but you know the donor wanted this. The donor gave the money. Guess how much he cost us to come here and speak? One night, Malik. Guess how much? Come on, guess. $50,000. I'm not kidding you. $50,000. His name's Tom Peters. Google him. He's that's irrelevant with those guys because it's 50 grand. I can't remember. I think he's coming from Connecticut, to tell you the truth. But in his rider, you know, like they all have riders, but his was like the most prima donna one you could imagine. Not the most prima donna one, because I've heard like, you know, rock stars have riders like, you know, I only want yellow M&Ms and stuff like that. But in his rider he had, this is the lunch that he wanted, like it was a special like chicken lunch, and he wanted like a microphone, a backup microphone, and then it was a kind of an obnoxious rider because he had like the same sentence twice. You know what I mean? Like the same thing he wanted. I can't remember what it was, but he said, yes, I did write that same sentence twice because that's how important it is. You know, if you forget, you know, it's kind of arrogant. You know what I'm saying? But he was 50, and what was a shame is he wanted this special like sound system. It was over in Stokes, and you know, a special projecting system, and we got all that stuff. That was another couple $1,000s probably, and then he didn't use it. Like he didn't do any PowerPoint or anything. He just like spoke. I kid you not. Yeah. Now, did you return stuff? Well, it was like rented stuff. So yeah, we rented it, and didn't get used. So, but yeah, those speakers. See, if you want to become an expert at something,
write a best-selling book and become a decent speaker. You guys are all pretty good speakers from what I've seen. And you could just make a living doing that campus tour. Yeah, 50 grand. He was the most expensive we've had. Most of them are about Daniel Levitin from last year. You guys remember him? No? Organized Mind. He was probably 15 grand or something like that. The one we had this year, she wasn't that good. The entrepreneurship, she was cheaper. She was like 8 grand, but she wasn't worth 800. Yeah, but he was cheap. He was like a Kent Tonkin deal. Mr. Tonkin got him. He was all we really had to pay for him was his expenses. Like we didn't have to pay him like a fee. We just had to pay for them to ship the Elio here and for their travel expenses. They were cheap. So he was pretty good too. He was all right. I liked him. But yeah. So entertainer fee. Let's do entertainer, rider. And let's say this is going to be more than like 250 characters. So instead of short text here, I will put I don't want to do attachment. I just put long text. So you guys do one. Let's do entertainer gender. And let's have 3 options for that. Let's have, let's do short text, 1 character. And let's do M is equal to male, F is equal to female, and G is equal to group. So where would we want, you guys remember how we made that a drop down? What do we do? Very good. Go to lookup, change it from a text box to a combo box, change table query to value list, and in row source I want M, F, M, comma, F, comma, G. Last field. Let's do entertainer phone. Now, for a phone number or for several things, what do you see on forms that help you enter like phone numbers, help you enter like social security numbers? Yeah, because they put a box like boom, 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 like this, dash, boom, 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 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, what that's called is an input mask, right? It helps people enter in information, right? So that you know what it's looking for. It intuitively helps me. Oh, they're looking for area code here. They're looking for exchange. They're looking for my number. So let's put an input mask on this. So under general, let's go to input mask. And we want to select those three dots are called ellipses. So that means more. So let's click on those 3 ellipses. It says must save table, save now, say yes. Okay. And there are several predefined input masks. We can design our own input mask, but why do that when there are several of those to be used? So let's try the phone number one. Okay, so that makes sense. Exchange, or area code exchange, and then number. So let's click next. That looks good. Placeholder. Yeah, I guess the dash is good in our country. And let's just finish. Okay, so that input mask is really what it's saying is, this is the format it's going to be. You don't have to know these symbols, but this is what it's going to look like. Okay, and let's create our third table, okay? So I'm gonna X out. Well, just go to create table. Go to design view, and we're going to call this one events. And once again, I'm going to put in here event ID. Okay, let's put event date. We haven't had a date field yet. So let's do event date time as the data type. All right, that's all we'll do for that one. But what do I need in my event? What's that?
The name of the event.
All right, so let's do event name. Okay, I'm with you. You're right. But what else do we need at our event? The entertainer, right? So here's what we're going to put in here. Event, because it's in the event table, right? And then how do we tie an entertainer to our event? Sorry. How do we tie an entertainer to our event? We reference the entertainer table by using entertainer ID, right? So this one's not going to be auto number. We're going to put in the number of our entertainer. So just call this number. Okay. This is how we're going to tie our entertainer to our event. What else do we want to tie to our event? We have an entertainer showing up. What else do we want to tie to it? Some place to have it. So venue ID. And let's make that number as well. All right. Here's what I'd like you to do now. X out of this. Oh, save it, yes. X out of entertainers. You want to save? Yes. X out of venues. Do you want to save? Yes. All right. So remember, once again, I started the class by saying databases are made up of three things. What are they? First one, we've just designed three of them. What? Tables. Second thing is what? Data goes into databases. You're right. What's the second thing? Relationships, right? And the third thing is metadata. And we kind of put metadata in there, right? And we said, hey, this MF's going to go in here, IO. But we haven't built the relationships yet. Okay. We put in the structure for the relationships, but we didn't build them yet. And you guys, so this is primary key, this is primary key, this is primary key. But you're right, we need to tie the entertainer ID here. Okay, so this is going to be tied through this, and the venue ID here is going to be tied to this. What do we call these? These are obviously primary keys in their primary table. What do we call these because they point to primary keys in other tables? We call them foreign keys. Very good. Okay, so this is how we build that relationship. You have to X out of your tables like I did, right? Because they were in edit mode. We want to X out, save them. And we want to go to Database Tools. And then under Database Tools, we want to go to Relationships. All right. Now, this is basically like a canvas where I'm building relationships. The canvas I have now is blank. I want to show all three of these tables on my canvas. So I'm going to say add the entertainers table, add the events table, and add the venues table, and then click close. So you can see these tables in this view very much like the way I designed them on the whiteboard, right? We see the table name and the fields within that table. Well, now I want to create a relationship. Okay, so we're going to go to over here to see under design. We want to go to edit relationships. You guys see edit relationships? Click on edit relationships. And let's click on create new. And it really doesn't matter what we put as left table name, right table name. Let's tie venue to event. Okay, so I'm going to say left table name is venue. Left column name is venue ID. So I'm going to take venue ID from the venue table and tie it to the event table. And what field do I want to tie it to? Event venue ID. Very good. And I click OK. Now, I want you not to do anything on this table yet. I'm going to click on this box that says enforce referential integrity. Okay, referential integrity is a term that I haven't discussed yet. Referential integrity says I cannot add an event for a venue that doesn't exist. For example, if I try to put in here venue ID 1234 and there is no venue 1234 over here, it will yell at me. It will say, hey, that venue doesn't exist. If I didn't check referential integrity, it would not yell at me. It would let me do it, and then I'd have a mess. Okay? So by checking that box, I'm enforcing that, hey, the venue has to exist before I can add an event for that venue, which makes sense. And then I'm going to click on Create. And what you should see is we have a tie now. What's that symbol mean? The lemniscate. What's that symbol mean? You guys know? What's the lemniscate? You know, it's called the infinity symbol, right? So what this is telling us is one venue, there can be many events for one venue, right? We can hold many events at one venue. That makes sense. It's called a one-to-many relationship. One thing here can appear many times over here. Does that make sense? Okay, good. All right, we're not done though. We need to tie entertainers to events. So we're going to go through the same process. We're going to click Edit Relationships, Create New. My left table name is going to be Entertainers. My left column name is Entertainer ID. My right table name is Events. And my right column name is Event Entertainer ID. I click OK. I check Enforce Referential Integrity. I click Create. And now I have a one-to-many there. Because one entertainer can do many events, right? That makes sense. So I've designed my tables. I've designed my relationships. Okay? And I have my metadata interspersed with my table design. You guys good? You have this relationship? Okay, so all we've done, so I'm going to close this, and it's probably going to say, do you want to save it? Yes, I want to save it. Okay, all I've done is built the structure of this table, right? I haven't done what? I haven't entered data. Right, so let's enter some data. So we can't enter events first because events have to be entertainers at venues. So we have to enter entertainers or venues first. So let's go to entertainers. Okay, and I'm going to double click on entertainers. And this is called data sheet view. So this is usually how I enter in things. So entertainer ID, I'm not going to do anything with because it's going to be auto number. So all I'm going to have to do is tab over. And this is entertainer, I think it says name here. So I'm going to say John Miko. My fee is going to be $75,000. My rider is must have I don't know, a quiet room. That's a boring rider, isn't it, Malik? My gender, you see this is where we have the drop down. So I'm going to have, there's our three options. Remember, male, female, group. We choose M for male. What is this one? This is phone number. So, oops. And there we see our mask that we put in, 814, 814, 241, 4299. And you see when I go to the next one, you see John Miko is entertainer ID 1. Okay, let's do another one. So let's do Malik the Magician. What? And you come cheaply, Malik. Okay. Must have Skittles. I'm going to X out of that. And the data will be saved. It says you want to save? Yes. Okay. Let's enter some venues. And I don't know why I put capacity first, but let's just say 100, Loretto, PA, JFK, indoor, outdoor, indoor, and $500, $5,000. And let's do 40, Loretto, PA, SCOTUS 103, indoor. So I don't care what you enter, but let's enter 3 venue IDs, okay? See how they all get a unique number? And then X out of that. So if I double click on entertainers, I see it's still my 3 entertainers. I'm going to X out of that. If I click on my venues, there's my 3 venues. Now I want to enter events. So double click on events. Event date, click on the little calendar. Let's say this is going to be Friday. Event name is Miko Palooza. Now, this says event, oops. I wanted to make it bigger. This is the entertainer ID. If I try to enter 5, and then tab over. Should not let me do that. Let's do 5 and 5. All right, yeah, it does. So You see it says you cannot add or change a record because a related record is required in table entertainers. Well, why did it give me that message? Why did it give me that error? It won't let me enter this issue. Why? What do I need to put in entertainer ID? Let's say this is Malik. He's putting on a show on October 16th. What is his entertainer ID? I need to put in 2. And let's say he's doing it at JFK. What do I need to put into event venue? I think that was my first venue, right? So I need to put in 1. Now, let's say on, I don't know, the 30th, we also have an event. Let's say it's Malik again, but this time he is doing it in event venue 2. So now you can see how an entertainer can be many times in the event table. Same thing with a venue. One venue can show up many times in the event table. So this next one, let's do, let's say it's going to be, I don't know, the 22nd. Let's say this is event 3. This one is going to be Miko at event or venue 3. And I'm going to X out of that. Okay, so all I've done, I've built my tables, boom, 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 built the relationships, and I started populating the data. Okay. So, if I want to now retrieve the data from my database, right? That's one of the reasons we design a database, because we want to retrieve it later. Let's go to the query wizard. What was a query? Do you guys remember? What is a query? A query is, another name for a query is a
Question.
It is a question, right? So let's go to create, and let's run a query. Let's design a query. So let's go to query wizard. Let's make it easy on ourselves. And let's just do simple query wizard. So I'm going to click OK. And it says, all right, what do you want to pull together? Okay, well, let's say I want the event date, I want the event name, and I don't really want the ID. I don't care about those things, right? Because an ID doesn't give me much value. But I want to see, let's go to the entertainers table. Let's get the entertainer name, their fee, the rider. That's good. And then let's see from the venues table, let's pull over venue name and venue capacity. So what I want to see you do here, what I want to show you is what we're doing here, is we're pulling fields from 3 different tables, right? How does it know to pull the ones that are related? Because of those relationships, right? If not, it would just show me everything. But it's only going to pull the ones that match. So I'm going to click Next. Show every field of every record. That's fine. Click Next. Open the query to view information. That's good. Click Finish. And now we've taken those 3 separate tables and written a query that says, here are the 3 events that we have. Miko Palooza, here's the name, so that comes from the event. Entertainer name, that comes from the entertainer table. Entertainer fee comes from the entertainer table. Rider comes from the entertainer table. Venue and venue capacity come from the venue table. What you don't see here, because it doesn't matter, is what? It matters internally, but it doesn't matter to us. Was what? The ID, right? Because who cares that I'm ID 1, Malik's ID 2? No one, right? It's just a number. It just makes the relationship happen. But what we want to know is the information associated with that. Yes? So when you run a query, okay, we can also, well, what did I say? How do we talk to a database? So let's talk about that. When I talk to a database, what do I? So here's my events query. Let's click on that. And let's go to view. When I talk to a database, what language do I use? You guys remember this. What language do I use? Not English, not Spanish. When I talk to a database, what language do I use? SQL, okay, SQL. So if I go to my query that I just built, and this is called datasheet view because that's what I see, let's go to SQL view. Okay, let's go to SQL view. And this shows me, remember we talked about there's a statement, a language that we use? This is what that language looks like. You didn't have to use it because you use the wizard, but it says select from these fields, from those tables on those fields. Let's go to design view of my query. Okay, and it's showing me these relationships. Let's say we only want to see entertainers. I think this is how we work this. Let's say greater than, who have fees greater than $10,000. So I'm under entertainer fee and criteria. I'm saying greater than $10,000. And then I'm going to run my query again. And what do you see is missing now from my query? Malik, because he's cheap, right? He's only $250. All we have is John Miko. Okay, so if you think about it, this is how systems work. You design a database, you relate the tables together, you enter the data, and that's what happens during the day, and then we can retrieve that information, and we can put out certain criteria. Like maybe we only want to see events that are on this coming week, right? We only want to see events that are this day, or this price, this month. I want to see juniors with a GPA greater than 3.0 that live in Blair County. I can run that query, right? This is how all databases are structured. So, we're not going to be experts at Access, but I hope, this little exercise, which you're going to have to do one on your own, actually, I'm going to give that out Wednesday, kind of showed you how things come together behind the scenes, right? And as business professionals, you need to understand that. And you do need to understand it, because you're going to be designing, in concert with IT professionals, you're going to be designing systems and data needs. Any questions on that? All right, like I said, I recorded this, so I'll